Alright, okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to the session. Okay, so as usual, I'll be running through the markets over here, highlights on the opportunities, and we'll see if you guys have any questions. We'll address that, as you post it up onto the chat. Good. Let's start with the dollar index. So overall here, this is my current perspective of the dollar. Okay. Um, right now, as long as price is currently still maintaining below the swing high at 108, overall bias here is still going to be bearish, as we are looking at possibly price coming up a little bit more towards 106.7, 107 area around that 50 and 618. But overall, we'll still be looking at one more push minimally to complete that 1-2 trade. Okay. And of course, over here we can look at it from the perspective of this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that being the first wave, 3-wave pullback, and then one more push, right, to complete the bigger structure. Alternatively, we can also see it as a push here, and then this is an expanding flat, right? So overall, my view here is as long as price respect this high, overall we're still expecting the downside bias, right? And of course, the daily time frame is kind of aligned onto that as well, right? We have the bigger flag structure ABC. So same thing here, right? As long as price maintain below that, we can continue to expect deeper push to the downside. Okay. So as of now, this week currently we are gonna be looking at dollar weakness overall, until proven otherwise. Okay. So with that said, euro dollar here, I'm actually rate flagging this at the moment. Okay, potentially we may get a setup perhaps later part of the week. Of course, depending on how price is going to develop from here. Okay, so if you can get a corrective pullback, towards the key area between 1.0480, 1.0440, that would open up the buy side opportunity, right? So we're looking at the possibility of a deeper pullback, right? So this is a push down. So if you can get a push up here, corrective pullback, we expect one more move up. All right. However, the thing that may not be fully aligned right now is this little wick here, right? I mean, price attempt to take out that high, but came out to it based on resistance, and then it's currently pushing back down, right? So that's something that perhaps is not as clean, because if the price actually able to take out that, then it's actually much better, right? So it just very quickly show you what I mean, right? You can see over here on the pound dollar, this move entirely took out that high. Okay, so that gives us the perspective of a potential pullback is indeed starting, right? So obviously the pound dollar here, we're also bullish. Okay, but same thing here, euro dollar is bullish as well. Now, why am I rate flagging this is because in the near term, or at least shorter term perspective, right, within maybe the next 1 or 2 days, we may have an opportunity to take a short term sell. Okay, as we trade it back towards the 1.0480, 1.0440, we can consider some kind of a counter trend, trading the retracement move, right? So this is on an hourly chart. I'm combining a little bit of the SMC card principle over here as a setup. You can see that this high has been taken out. Okay, but the market came back down pretty impulsively, pretty quickly as well. So potentially this can build into what we call a liquidity sweep. All right, and if that's going to be the case, ideally we want to see this low taken out with momentum, right? So I mean, right now it's kind of testing that. Okay, but hopefully this can go down a little bit more. That will be a nice little clean break. We do have a little bit here and there as well, but these are pretty minor, so I would love to see this taken out, and then we can start to look for a pullback to take the sell trade, back towards where the 50 and 618 is on the higher time frame. Okay, so then we can actually short this first, and as it progresses, we might then go back on the higher time frame and look to buy. All right. So that's the part where I'm flagging this, looking at the short-term sell side, okay, going into the key area on the H4. GBP USD here, pretty straightforward in terms of the overall direction of bias is bullish. Okay, obviously again we have a massive move to the downside. The market start to push back up. At least from here we have a 1, 2, 3, so that can be a first move up. Okay, if this comes down correctively, we can expect another move back up, right? And as I mentioned just now, we have this taken out, so it's starting to give us that extra confirmation that perhaps the move to the upside has already been started, right? Okay, so I don't think this week here we're gonna have much of an opportunity for the pound dollar. Again, trading this I did not rate flat, right? Because I think the downside here would probably need more time before it develops, right? We don't really have much of a structure at the moment. I mean, one of the closest one possibly is to see this as a break, or I would say liquidity swim, and then of course, if this takes out that low, that can potentially be something, right? But again, we'll need time. As of now, we don't really have anything on the list for the pound dollar side of things. Okay, so right now this is the view. Okay, then we have the Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar overall is neutral, but the current development seems to be more of a crawl. Okay, more of a crawl-like structure. So um, the bias here is to start focusing on potential reversal back up. Okay, obviously we need a little bit more of a confirmation, right? Because right now, market is overall still within the corrective structure development. If we can get some kind of like impulsive break above some of the swing highs here, that would give us that confirmation, right? But for now, there's really nothing there. Okay, so this one would just leave it as it is. Okay, so yep, nothing much on that. Okay, dollar Canadian, I'm also overall neutral at the moment. We kind of got that tag on that high, right? But again, we want to see how the market is going to develop first. If this were to come back down impulsively, that can be a kind of fake break, right? Double top structure, market take out this, then we obviously can start to look for a deeper pullback, right? And that will open up a short-term sell opportunity as well. But now we just leave it as it is. Okay, dollar yen is moving very, very nicely towards the target over here. This one, for me personally, I managed to catch this short-term buy, right? I think I shared a little bit on last week as well, where we have this 5-wave move. First push up, breaking this high. So a corrective pullback would expect a third move up, right? WXY. So this is potentially completing soon, right? And if price comes out towards like 152 area, that would definitely be a potential sell opportunity moving forward, right? So a quick one on the dollar yen over here, right? Just to kind of like do a bit of a review back on what contributed to this trade. Okay, so firstly, of course, on the higher time frame, we have the little bit of a crawlish structure here. We have the move down, and then we have this push up, so we're kind of expecting the third move, right? And on the lower time frame, we do have a bit of a confirmation as well, confluences, okay, where you can see this take out that low, but very, very quickly push back up, breaking that swing high, right? So in terms of like SMC kind of setup, this is a classic trade setup, right? We have the liquidity sweep, we have a breakout structure, and then we have the pullback correctively. In terms of Elliott wave, is obviously corrective. In terms of like SMC principle, is where the market actually made a move. We have this low here, and then the market pull back, and then this creates the liquidity area, right? For me, very simply, I'll just use that fib. Okay, and that's where the trade was tagged in. Stop below here. Target, obviously, I'm just looking at that previous swing high. So it's just a very, very simple 1:2, right? But of course, this one here, you can see potential target somewhere around 152. Okay. Now if price reach 152, then we'll be looking at potential sell, right? So again, if this continue to build in, right? If this continue to build in something like this, right? Then this will open up the sell trade, right? As it tags at 152, right? Again, create some kind of a liquidity sweep, confirmation by reversing, and then we'll look for the pullback to look for the sell. Okay, so that's on dollar yen. And then of course very similar building up here is gonna be gold. Okay, where it came into the territory here, right, which is 100% fit. Of course, this is gonna be the zone between the 100 and 123. Okay, and again, this move back is relatively corrective in nature. So we are currently in the key area. We're looking at one more push down short term here towards this low, and then maybe the push back up. So as of now, the direction of bias is going to be bearish. Okay, and on the lower time frame, okay, what I would love to see, of course, is you can see right now the market is trying to break that high, right? So if we can actually, I would say, see that break as a potential liquidity, okay, meaning price actually break it, but very quickly come back down and take out this low, okay, that would start to show us the setup, right, where we have the liquidity sweep with the break of structure. A pullback on this would give us that sell trade setup to the downside. Okay, so this might actually build up by maybe tomorrow or perhaps Thursday. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm actually red flagging this, right? Because I would want to pay a little bit more attention on this moving forward, at least for the second half of the week, right? So that's on gold. Okay, and on silver here is a little bit different. Okay, I think most of the time, like gold and silver, it's aligned, right? They're positively correlated. But as of now, the chart is actually telling us a little bit different story, right? In terms of gold here, we're looking at downside, but silver has a very clean break of this high, right? So can this actually come back and retest the low? Anything is possible in the market, but we do get a clean break. So if this builds in correctively, we are still going to be looking at upside, right, as the directional bias. Okay, so for me on silver, right, on the lower time frame here is also very clean. You can see break of structure, right, with swing low with swing high. What I would love to see, of course, is to give it time and really see if this can do something like this, right? So again, coming down correctively, you shouldn't be too fast. Build in a low, pull back a little bit, come back down for that liquidity sweep, enter our trade, and then look to buy it, right? The model is very similar to the dollar yen, right? So of course this wouldn't happen within today, but I'm flagging it again. Keep an eye on this, right? As I mentioned, the ideal setup would be something like this. Come back down, tag us in, and then move higher. Alright, so that's on silver. Crude oil here overall is just going to be neutral. Okay, prices continue to range as we're speaking, so I don't think you want to pay too much attention on that for now. We just leave it aside. Okay, S&P 500. I think the pullback is starting, right? So if I kind of take some Fibonacci expectation, I would say we can expect, okay, minimally back towards that 382. Potentially even the 50% mark. Okay, now if you're interested in the short term, right, I would say you can consider pullback. We do have this setup over here, right? Again, we kind of have that little fake break at the top, and then the market very quickly came back down, successfully take out that low as well, right? So overall, this can be a pretty valid setup to be looking at the sell here as well, right? And again, if you're familiar with some principles, you have that fair gap and things like that, right? Yeah, so this area looks pretty solid. Obviously the extra layer of confirmation again is this has to come back correctively, right? You don't want this to just push back up very fast. Okay? So yeah, in terms of like S&P, while on the high time frame we're expecting a pullback, the lower time frame gives you that opportunity to trade it to the downside as a retracement trade. All right. Yeah, so that's on the S&P. potentially building into something. If you look at some of the global indices, I think generally more or less the same. In terms of the US side, right? So NASDAQ, we're expecting a pullback. Yeah, Dow Jones is already starting that, right? So Dow Jones is very, very similar to S&P. Okay, so you can see over here, we have a little bit of a top page formation, price take out that swing low. So if you can get some sort of pullback, we can expect, a pushback down. Okay, yeah. So I think in terms of US equities, if you're looking at shorter term within the week, the S&P as well as the Dow Jones might present that opportunity. Okay, German DAX bias here in the longer term is obviously bullish, right? So we are expecting that deeper pullback. So again, on the lower time frame, that's something you can look into. Very, very similar to the S&P as well as the Dow Jones. Okay. FTSE, yeah, kind of similar here as well. Okay, we are expecting some sort of a deeper pullback. Fibonacci wise, coming back to where that previous wave 4 territory is. Alright, so we are expecting something like this. Cool. Yeah, so that's on the FTSE side. Okay, so key areas to be considering around that 8,270 to 8,240 or 50, right? So basically where that previous wave 4 potential territory is. Okay, A50, this has a low, fake break. This is a high, fake break. From Elliott wave perspective, that's a regular flat. Okay, that's a potential regular flat. So obviously right now with this momentum push down, we're gonna expect more downside. But obviously you just want to wait for the setup to come to you, right? I mean, what's a good setup? Price to pull back correctively, then you can expect to sell it at least back conservatively, right? Back towards where that previous low is. Okay. Yeah, so this on A50 and Hang Seng is pretty much, I would say, similar. Okay. We had this move down, then we have this pull back. Potentially I think towards like 50 or 618, right? Yeah, around that 50 and 618 zone, right? So on the bigger scheme of things, we can even see it as some sort of a three-wave move that looks something like this. Okay, so for those of you who are interested in Hang Seng or the A50, right? I think moving forward, if you can get a corrective pullback, then the directional bias here is definitely bearish. Okay, Aussie side of things, potentially pulling back. If it's going to be corrective, I think it's going to be corrective in a way, right? The early sign of it is corrective in nature. So yeah, it's a pullback phase, but I think this pullback is something pretty I wouldn't say nice, right? So you probably want to focus on that pullback trade on this, right? If you want to trade the pullback trade, I think the US market is cleaner, right? The US market is cleaner on this too. Okay, yeah, so Aussie probably nothing there. Switzerland franc, yeah, I think this pullback is pretty clean, right? So the key area here is around 50 to 618, obviously, right? If you can get that entry, I mean price entering around that key zone, that will be an area of interest to look for potential setup. Okay. Yeah, so in terms of like maybe index, okay, within the week, if you want to pay attention, probably the S&P or the Dow Jones, right? I think those are the two that may give you some sort of a trade opportunity. And if you're into like A50 China market or Hong Kong, then both also has it, right? But just bear in mind that this two is a little bit more tricky to trade it, right? If you're more of like the mainstream here is gonna be the S&P as well as the Dow Jones, right? That two will be a little bit more focused. Okay. Right. So those are some of the tax ones. The Pound yen here is potentially developing as wave 4, but of course, we'll need some sort of a confirmation here. Okay, ideally we want to see some decent rejection of this zone, right? And of course, this can be valid as long as price respect this high, right? Because from Elliott wave point of view, okay, as long as this this low here has been respected, then the overall 5-wave structure is still valid. This one here, to be very honest with what we are seeing here on a H4, right? We might get something in the near term. On the lower time frame as a potential sell as well, right? Because you can see the structure here. What we're looking at is if market comes back down impulsively, obviously this would be a liquidity sweep, and if price can actually come back down, take out this low, right? So can you visualize a little bit, right? Something like that. Then that's a liquidity sweep. That's a break of structure. On the higher time frame, we are in a bearish bias, and of course, if this starts to pull back, right, then that becomes a sell trade opportunity that we can look for. Okay. Yeah, so that's how you can see, right, from directional bias perspective. Then that builds into some sort of a setup, right? Of course, when price comes into a key area, okay, we can start to look out for things. All right, so that's on pound yen. Potentially something building into for the week, and then of course we have odd yen, right? Now odd yen, slightly different from the overall direction from pound yen. Yes, I understand, right? The yen pairs tend to move in similar correlation, but of course right now here the chart is again telling us a slightly different picture. Okay, higher time frame here we have this impulsive move that managed to take out that high, right? So maybe Aussie yen here in the near term might build into some sort of a fourth wave, with a 1, 2, 3 here, right? So then my thought process is, of course, can we capitalize on the third move up, right? So on the lower time frame, on the odd yen perspective, we have some potential setup as well. Okay, so we have this low taken out, and then again the market moved higher, take out that high. Currently pulling back, and then of course from this low, right? So the only thing that is not really convincing, of course, is this move is pretty fast and impulsive in nature. The market stop here. If we can do something like this, okay, if we can do something like this, I would say that is still a pretty solid trade setup to buy it, because then this offers some sort of a liquidity, okay, and then that would be a sweep to enter, and of course we have all the valid conditions in the past there as well, right? And of course we also have the, for those of you more familiar with some of these concepts here, we have this previous fair value gap, and then the market just basically U-turn off that, right? So we can't have like an inverse fair value gap, if you would like put it that way. So coming into that area as well. Okay, so I'm monitoring this. I don't have a pending order as of now, but as time progresses, as I mentioned, ideally something like this, and then coming back down, that would give us a valid entry. Okay, perhaps like Thursday or Friday, right? Later part of the week. Okay, so I'm also kind of flagging this to have it in my watch list. Okay. Pound Australia, nothing much ongoing on this. We are expecting that pullback, but of course, we'll see how things roll, right? Today the market kind of pushed back up, so not much there right now. I don't think there's any clear setup ongoing, so we'll leave it as it is. Right, and Bitcoin over here. Overall, I'm gonna be bullish on Bitcoin, I think, moving forward, but of course near term, will we come back and break this low? There is that possibility, because this looks crawlish in nature, right? But I think there's no clear setup on BTC at the moment. Alright, so again, this one here, I'm probably just gonna leave it aside for now. Okay. Yeah, so those that have red flag are things that I would pay a little bit more attention to within a week. Given, of course, things start to develop according to what I would love to see, then that will build into the setup that we can actually look to take some trades off them. Okay, I see here Novel is asking, Euro Canadian and the odd cat. What's my take on those? Okay. Okay, so Euro Canadian, let me, clean it up, zoom out a little bit. Let's see how things has developed. Okay. Um, Daily wise, really not much of a clear. But H4, I think in the near term, okay, there might be an opportunity to sell it in the short term, right? So in a way, this can be a true wave move, and then we're kind of expecting that pullback, right? And of course, this will build in on the lower time frame. Very, very similar setup to like what I cover on pound yen, right? Potentially gold here as well, right? You can see how similar those kind of setup is. Yeah, like pound yen, you see the framework. We have this high, the market took out that high. If it comes back down, take out this low, we wait for the pullback, we sell it, right? So if you see what's happening on Euro Canadian, right? Again, just to draw in a little bit, we have this high, right? Potentially as a grab of liquidity, and then of course the swing low here. Ideally, we want price to break out of that. Then what we'll be getting is this setup structure, right? Of course, this would then also be important to align to the higher time frame, right? Where we have this three-wave move. Okay, a little bit of a deceleration on top, right? And we'll be looking at that pullback, right? So the higher time frame builds in the directional bars that we can look into, right? And the lower time frame here gives us that setup, right? So that's my take on the Euro Canadian side of things, right? Australia Canadian, okay, in terms of like wave perspective, right? Seems to be coming down quite a bit. I would really put it as something like that, right? And then of course this might build into a tree wave here. Okay, so what we have, on the smaller scale, you have 1, 2, 3, pull back. Didn't really break out of this, then it comes back down, so that gives us that X wave, right? And then this will come in 1, 2, 3, so that's the blue X, and then this is coming down quite fast, so this is where the connector is, and then we're kind of expecting a 1, 2, 3 to complete the entire thing. Okay, so that's my view as of like what we're seeing here right now. Okay, so if that's going to be the case, then of course this would serve as a potential invalidation. The idea is as long as price remains below that, we can expect more downside, right? And then in terms of like maybe Fibonacci expectation, this would bring us down quite a bit. 8860. Let me just cross-reference to maybe a little bigger move here. Yeah, I'll take the more conservative expectation, right, to be honest. So I'll probably take somewhere here, right, which would be more conservative perhaps towards the area between 8960 to maybe 8890, right? So there's a little bit more downside that you can look out for. So again, wait for the setup to come to you, and then you can look for a sell trade, right? Yeah, something like that, right? That would be the outlook on that. Okay, in terms of Australia Canadian. Oh, All good. Okay, yeah, so yeah, again, to sum up a little bit, back to the list over here. Some of this here we are focusing on, maybe going down to lower time frame. Okay, yeah, a couple of things, right? Obviously, depending on again how the price is going to develop, some of this might be able to get involved maybe as soon as tomorrow. Like euro dollar here, if this is going to build up a little bit more like this, and then tomorrow it starts to give us some sort of a corrective pullback. I mean, based on time projection, sorry, it's not so much of a Wednesday, but maybe Thursday. We may get that entry. Okay. I think odd yen here potentially also. Yeah, I mean tomorrow possibly if this is gonna build out like that, then tomorrow we can place that pending, right? Yeah. Some of this would need maybe until Thursday or Friday. Some of this as soon as maybe tomorrow or Wednesday we might get some setup. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully that's clear. Okay. That's generally about it for today's sharing over here. Okay. So the best. And with that, we'll see you guys. Oh, sorry. I think there's some questions. In the crypto space, right? I think someone is asking on the crypto space. Ethereum, XRP, and Dogecoin. Yeah, I mean overall, every time we get some sort of an extended move, usually the market would somehow do a retracement, right? So, I mean, my take on Ethereum is obviously still bullish, but the part here is definitely doing some sort of a pullback, right? So if we're gonna measure this, this is definitely pretty impulsive. So probably is gonna do something like that, and then the pump back up, right? So yeah, probably in this phase of kind of like retracing or correcting that push up. Okay. Yeah. So if you go down to the lower time frame, you might consider again some potential trade as a retracement. Okay, meaning the higher time frame is doing its retracement, and then you look for shorter term trades. Kind of quote unquote counter trend on the higher time frame, but you understand that you're basically trading the retracement of it, right? XRP here as well. Okay, so XRP we have a very clear tree wave in development as of now, right? So this one here maybe I wouldn't say so much of a sell, but what you can wait out for is for price to maybe come back towards this area around 1.9, right? And again, go down to perhaps a lower time frame to start to look out for opportunities to see if you can get a buy setup. Once price maybe tag around that 1.9 area, right? Dogecoin, yeah, okay, not really the head and shoulder anymore. It didn't really play out as that. But this is definitely still very, very crawlish in nature, right? Okay, so I wouldn't be focusing on the buy at the moment. Okay, but there's a good possibility price will come back towards that low. We did get a fake break of the previous high. You can see that. Okay, so if you're looking at it from a 4-hour perspective, right, which is the current perspective over here, we did get this minor break, okay, which is ideally not the confirmation, not a very strong confirmation, but it's an early sign. The real confirmation of a bearish cycle is when price take out this low. Okay. So this break here is just giving you an early sign that, oh, okay, maybe this is starting to come down. But the bearish confirmation is when price take out this low with momentum, then we can confidently say that, all right, we can expect, moving forward, maybe price will make a deeper move to the downside. Okay, but from where we are right now, okay, I mean, you can be still looking at sell, with the early sign of confirmation, but it's not a convincing one. Okay, so directional bias wise is definitely still bearish, right? You can take a look at this, right? It's still bearish. XRP, I wouldn't be too bearish on that. Okay, Ethereum, I would say it's more of a retracement setup. So the idea is, you want to respect that overall this can be developing. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so those are the things to note. Hopefully it helps to give you some insights and perspective for the market, right? So that's all for me. All the best for this week, and we'll see you guys again in the next session. Yeah, you guys, bye bye.